Okay. Chairman Byrd, Vice Chairman Anderson,
Here.
Commissioner Glover,
Here.
Commissioner Neil Anderson,
Here.
Commissioner Bush, Commissioner Leggett,
Here.
Commissioner Gilbert,
Here.
Commissioner Brewer.
Here.
Virgil. Pop up or no. Yeah. And Commissioner McDermott.
Here. Behind your red tab, we have consideration of minutes. Has everybody had an opportunity to review the minutes, or if you'd like an opportunity to review the minutes now?
I move we approve the minutes.
And a second? Second. Any discussion? All in favor? Anybody opposed? Motion passes. Chris, I guess I'll turn this over to you.
Yes, sir. All right. Good morning, everyone. Just gonna give a quick director's report. First of all, I want to report that I was able to attend the National Association of State Departments of Agriculture meeting, which was held in Rogers, Arkansas. And the Arkansas Department of Agriculture put that on in cooperation with the association, but really a well done meeting. Secretary Ward was the president at the time of the meeting, and I guess is now past president, but no,
He got on RFD.
he did.
Yeah.
But I mean,
Hope you had it on top.
yeah. It was an excellent conference, so really well done. It was great to hear from Secretary Rollins and the governor in regards to agriculture. So a great meeting. We continue to work on the water plan. All of our contractors are busy working, and we're continuing to have coordination meetings with those contractors. And just make sure that we're making progress on the water plan so that we can deliver it next summer. We've also been doing some meetings with different sectors or industry groups. So for example, we met with the Department of Commerce just to understand what sort of industry they might be attracting or what they foresee coming to Arkansas in the future. And so that we can look at that from a water standpoint. And likewise, we've met with the electric cooperatives just to understand more about the power grid and how that may impact water. We'll continue to have these sorts of meetings moving forward just so that we have a better understanding about what is coming in the future, because our planning horizon for the water plan is through 2050. And so it's just that we have a better understanding. As you may have heard, or as you may recall, we have the Alliance Project, which is now under the Advancing Markets for Producers program through USDA. We opened up our second application period for that on September 17th, and that will run until October 17th. Right now we have 4 practices, which is conservation crop rotation, cover crops, no-till, and reduced till. We had to reduce our number of practices because we have a very short window, because we need a no-cost extension between Virginia Tech and USDA. But and then that project is going on in Cross County, St. Francis, Jefferson, Arkansas, Lincoln, and Drew. And so we hope we get more practices implemented on the ground. We also hope that if the extension goes through, that we can offer another application period after the first of the year and expand that suite of practices. Our groundwater staff is getting geared up to go start our fall measurements. And so we'll be doing fall measurements from October 6th to the 17th. We'll essentially try to measure about 310 wells as part of this effort. We take that data and then we use that in comparison to our spring data collection to understand really, the impacts on the aquifer and where we sit. And so all that data basically goes into our annual groundwater report that we do in spring. We've also been spending a lot of time on cooperative wastewater projects. And when I say cooperatives, I mean our staff going to assist more than one entity, like more than one water system, more than one community. I'm trying to figure out how to do either merge systems or regionalized systems. And so Debbie Dixon and I were in West Arkansas meeting with 3 towns. We had 3 mayors, members of city councils from 3 communities there, trying to figure out, what is possible for a regional system in that area. We're also assisting Northwest Arkansas with some of their regional planning efforts, and we have several other efforts across the state that are going on. So a lot of work going on in that particular arena right now, and which is good. I mean, you see that the fact that folks are willing to cooperate to basically create a system that, one, is more resilient and sustainable, and 2, hopefully costs a little less money for the individual ratepayers. So a lot of work going on there. And then last, this is always sort of a bittersweet thing that we do, but we have an employee that's retired, and as y'all know, we've had quite a few over the last year or so. It's just, it's that time for us. We're kind of going through a generational turnover in natural resources, but Bob Fowler, who has worked for us for 21 years, announced his retirement, and he actually retired in September. But Bob has been just a dedicated, selfless. I mean, he's the guy that always opens the door and will be the last one to enter a room after everybody goes in, or open a car door for you, or always trying to help you. And he's been in our conservation section working with conservation districts in South Arkansas for years. And there's a lot of traveling, and everybody knows Bob down there. And so we are going to miss Bob, but I'll take a minute just to recognize him. We have a plaque. So Bob, if I could get you to come to the front. Secretary Ward, would you mind coming in? Come on up, Bob. You'd see that. Sure, Bob.
Ready?
Yes.
3, 2, 1.
Thank you, Bob. I appreciate it. Bob, thank you for your time. Yeah, we hate to lose Bob. Megan will tell you that for sure, because he has helped Megan a ton, but that concludes my report. I'll be happy to take questions. There are any.
Any questions for the director this morning? All right, financial assistance report, Mr. Weedor.
Good morning. You should have the report in your packet. We'll start with the Water Development Fund. Taking into account the disbursements of $425,000 and the undispersed but approved projects of $3.8 million. At this point in time, there will be $8.9 million available for future projects, taking into account one that you'll be asked to address later in the meeting. And the WSSW fund, taking into account the disbursements of $30,000 and the undispersed but approved projects of $17.1 million, there's just under $3.2 million available for future projects. And in the general obligation bond fund, taking into account $875,000 of disbursements thus far in the year, and the approved but undispersed projects of $54.8 million, there's $5.9 million remaining that is available for future funding, future projects. I'd be happy to take any questions if there are any.
Is there any money put back to where we can take a trip?
Not from here.
We want to go there.
Maybe Chris has something in his back pocket, but not from here. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Weedor. Next is our legal report, Ms. Andrews.
Vice Chairman Anderson, members, good morning. Before I get into the details of what legal's been doing over the past couple of months, I'm thrilled to announce that we have new additions to our legal team. Starting with our new chief counsel, Matt Ford. He started on September 8th. Matt comes to us from the Arkansas Attorney General Office. And he served there as Senior Assistant Attorney General in the Data Privacy, Cybersecurity, and Technology Division. Matt is an adjunct faculty member here at the Bowen School of Law in Little Rock. And he brings to us a significant amount of complex litigation experience and representation of state government agencies. So we're so excited that he's hit the ground running. He couldn't be with us today, but he looks forward to meeting y'all. Our next addition is Shaylee Clements. She joined our team in August. She is a recent graduate of the Bowen School of Law and earned her undergraduate degree at UALR. Shaylee actually grew up on a farm with horses, chickens, and lots of animals, so she is thrilled about the work we do in agriculture. So we're very excited. Shaylee's jumped in on processing Public Water Authority applications and helping with rule revisions. So it's so exciting to see the new additions for our legal team. They both have just jumped right in and thrilled to have them. Moving on to the particulars of legal's work for the division. Since the last commission meeting, the department received 14 requests related to the Natural Resources Division. The majority of those were related to liquid animal waste permits. We got 2 related to dams and 2 related to conservation or irrigation districts. One of the very large projects we're working on right now is rules. So the legislation passed during this year's regular session required a number of amendments to our agency's rules. Legal is assisting the Natural Resources Division with amendments to 3 pretty big rules. The first being the Water Authority rules. We're incorporating changes made by Acts 239 and 736, which expanded the eligibility for public water authorities. Next is the oversight of retail water providers. That rule is being expanded to include wastewater and sewer as required by Act 925. And then finally, our financial assistance rule. Act 812 added 2 new funding programs, and so the financial assistance rule is being amended to incorporate those changes. So we'll update you as those rules walk through the promulgation process. We'll keep you posted on where they are, and we expect to have those presented to you at the next meeting. Now, speaking of public water authorities, as I said, the eligibility requirements changed as a result of Act 736. So now a number of additional entities can apply to become or convert to a public water authority. We've received phone calls, emails, and just a number of inquiries from entities wanting to convert or become a public water authority. Since the change took effect on August 5th, we've already received 2 applications and we anticipate several more. So we will update you as those change or as those progress. And of course, any that might trigger water plan compliance, we would let you know. And then finally on litigation, as you know, there is an administrative appeal related to the Central Arkansas Water Plan compliance decision from this commission. The appeal is Christy Eanes and a number of other residents of that community, and they recently filed their opening brief in the matter, and the commission's response brief is due on October 27th. But to opposing counsel, he indicated that he would like to have a hearing in that, so I'll just continue to update you. I'm happy to take any questions you may have.
General obligation bond work, Mr. Director.
So behind the third tab in your packet, you'll see general obligation bond plan of work. So this is orange tab. Well, it's that one right there. You're right there. So that is our plan of work. It is something that we have to do every 2 years for the next biennium to be able to issue general obligation bonds for projects. Just as a reminder of what we use general obligation bond for, we have used those for to match the clean water and drinking water state revolving funds. We have used those for irrigation projects, and we have used those for water and wastewater projects. So that is really our 3 primary uses. Inside the plan of work, it lays out the things that we anticipate using bonds for. We're down to just about 48,500,000 in bonds. And so we can issue up to 60 million in a 2-year period. So we don't have that much left. We're down to 48.5. And this lays out how we anticipate using it. Upon your approval, if you approve today, then this will go on to the chief fiscal officer of the state, and then on to the legislative council for review, and then ultimately to the governor for her review. And so this is the first step in that process. Happy to take any questions about the bonds, the plan of work or anything related to that, but it's one of the steps that we have to do to be able to issue general obligation bonds. One thing I know is that should we decide to issue bonds, once we go through all this process, I will come back to you again with a resolution once we decide what we're actually going to issue in bonds at that time. The last couple of years, I will also add, in 2025, we issued 25 million in bonds. And then in 24, we did 30 million in bonds for those 2 years, over those 2.
How much do you anticipate this to be?
This is 48
This
million
is
500 is what we have left to issue in bonds. And so we can do up to 30 million a year. Obviously, there's not 30 million a year there. We're going with 60, there's only 48 million 500. Now we have, as part of the last legislative session, there was Act 578 that essentially provides us a general obligation bond authority. So 500 billion in general obligation bond authority, but that will have to go before the people for a vote in November of 26 in the general election. What we're considering here is part of our bond authority from 2007. So we've been using that 2007 general obligation bond authority just about now. So happy to take any questions, but this does require an action of the commission.
Any questions? We need a motion
So moved.
and a second.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? Motion passes. Thank you. We have, Debbie Dix.
You have 2 resolutions in your packet that we're going to talk about today. The first one in your packet, and I don't know which color tab you got there. Orange. Okay. The orange one. The first one is the authorization. We're requesting authorization to issue $150 million in state revolving fund revenue bonds. This is to cash flow all the that we've approved over the last couple of years. This has to go through the ADFA. ADFA actually issues the bonds, but this is giving us the authority to work with ADFA to issue the bonds. Questions on this? I do have our financial advisor and our bond council president.
Debbie, just as part of this process, when this body approves the resolution, then it'll go before that ADFA board.
Yeah.
They'll also have to approve.
Yeah, and ADFA actually issues the bonds on our behalf. We don't naturally not issue the state revolving fund revenue bonds. This is not under the state. This is purely state revolving fund backs these bonds. It's not like the general obligation.
I move we approve them. As presented.
Got a second?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposition? Motion passes.
Okay, the next resolution I have for you is what we call the reimbursement resolution. This too is for the state revolving funds, and it's related to the $150 million bonds we're going to issue. This authorizes us to reimburse our program for disbursements that we make 90 days prior to the issuance of those bonds, so we can reimburse for those expenditures between now and then.
And a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? Motion passes. Thank you. Mike McDermott of our Water Well Committee report today.
Arkansas Natural Resources Commission's Water Well Construction Committee met September 10th, 2025 at the Arkansas Department of Agriculture's Natural Resource Division. Committee members in attendance were myself, David Washington, and David Gilbert. Director Coal Closure provided general agency report. He just did this, so I'll skip that. The staff provided the inspector's report covering reports of unlicensed drillers and pump installers doing work in the state. The committee was presented with a financial report showing a water well fund balance as of June 30th, 2025 of $417,842. Staff provided a report on licensing. So far for 25-26, 132 water well contractors, 249 drillers, 261 pump installers, and 404 rigs have been registered. In other business, Caden Cartmell from Huntsville, Arkansas asked to speak to the committee about the apprenticeship rules to request a waiver of the rules to allow his years of work with his father, who was unlicensed, to qualify as supervisor under the rules. After some discussion between the committee, staff, Mr. Cartmell, and department legal staff, it was decided that Mr. Cartmell should contact other licensed pump installers in the state to find someone to agree to supervise his work for the 2 years required by the rules. Staff agreed to send Mr. Cartmell a list of potential contractors within 2 hours of Huntsville to find a suitable supervisor to complete his apprenticeship. Committee expressed appreciation for his willingness to appear before them to make this request and his desire to find a solution to getting an appropriate license, and offered advice and assistance in his search for a supervisor. Mr. Cartmell agreed to update staff and the committee on his progress. A follow-up report is to be reviewed by the committee at the next meeting schedule. With no more further business on the agenda, a motion was adjourned. We adjourn. No action, no commission action.
And Ms. Dixon.
Thank you, man. Good job.
We just have 2 projects for you today.
Boy, this is a slow time.
We're gonna make up for it next month. Hang on to your hat.
Why does everybody come at one time?
So we have limited funding available, so we're bringing everybody to you at one time so that we can compare all of the applications at one time to make it fair for everybody to be considered at the same time, since we have limited funding availability. You're on. Okay. We have for you today 2 emergency funding applications. First, we have the City of Delight. They're requesting up to $100,000. We are recommending up to $100,000 in Water Development Fund in the form of a loan for emergency sewer repairs. And it is all for construction, eligible for reimbursement. And we also have the City of Norman. Also, we are recommending up to $100,000 for emergency water main repairs. out of the Water Development Fund, and this too is all for eligible reimbursement for construction costs. That is all I have for you today. We do have representatives of both communities on the Zoom call. Should you have any questions for them, or if you have any questions for me, I'd be happy to answer.
Would they like to say anything?
They didn't ask to speak, but we can chat.
Katie's moving along as well.
Yes, they'll both be loans.
Can you hear me?
Anybody have any questions?
Any questions, but I will point out that, through that emergency process, the chairman and I actually discussed these projects, and so their funding was actually approved so that they could go ahead and do the emergency repairs prior to this meeting. We have to come back to you all, let you know that this has been done. And the
I
term.
move with accept stuff.
We've got a motion, a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Uh,
Any opposition? Motion passes.
Thank you.
Debbie Moore.
But then Chris,
Chris Harris with Rural Water Association.
and as Chris is coming up, we work at the Rural Water Association all the time. I can't tell you how many times I call Chris on the weekend, on Saturday or Sunday or late at night when we've gotten word that a community is struggling, or maybe they've been had an issue, a pump failure or a major break, and Chris and his team are the ones that go and save the day. They actually are the ones that boots on the ground that go try to help these communities. You all have funded them, so we provide funding, grant funding to them every year for their subject matter position, technical service work, and I tell Chris all the time, best money we can spend is we spend it with them. So Chris and his team do a great job.
And we're appreciative of it. Good morning. He asked me to come and just kind of present a little bit of what we do. I'm not gonna go through everything, because I don't want to bore y'all this morning, take all your time. One thing our team has always prided themselves on is anything from the ditch to the desk. So basically anything, any service we can provide to our water and wastewater utilities, that's what we try to do. We've been in operation since 1977, and we've tried to build on that and keep adding services. And through y'all and federal partners, y'all kind of help do that. We're just a nonprofit organization. One of the things that's kind of confusing to people, when they see Arkansas Rural Water Association, they say, well, they help rural water associations. No, we're all water and wastewater utilities in the state of Arkansas. Actually, the majority of our members are municipal owned water and wastewater utilities, because we have more municipally owned water and wastewater utilities in Arkansas, but we try to help every single buddy we can. On the federal level, we have to focus on a population of 10,000 and less. Some internal funds we have a utility that's struggling over that. We help them, of course. One of our missions, just kind of to provide Arkansas water and wastewater utilities with the highest level of training and technical service. That's what we'll focus on mainly today, is the training and technical services we do, because that's kind of the bread and butter where we're at. We have a lot of other things that we do, but I'll just kind of skim over them and we'll go through them. Maybe. So we provide water, wastewater training, apprenticeship, backflow, specialized training classes that are more in depth with what an operator needs to know in the field. So last year, water training for licensure, we trained roughly about 3,500 operators across the state of Arkansas. We held about 548 hours of water training, direct licensure training. And usually we scatter, these are all around the state. Now we do have a training facility in Lone Oak. These are the pictures you see, because when we have bigger classes, and that's one thing that we have seen in the last few years, we're pushing 100 people in one class. Not every facility around the state has that kind of capacity, but we're fortunate enough we do in Lone Oak. Wastewater, same way, we scatter these all around the state of Arkansas to help these operators get licensed. 2024 held 378 hours of wastewater training, a little over 1,089 operators across the state. Maybe. Backflow training, So this is a lot for people testing backflows and repairing backflows across the state for usually private companies or cities, utilities. The one thing that we do offer is we test and repair backflows for utilities. We don't do it for private individuals, but for water utilities, we will come out and inspect their PR or RPZs and repair them as well. So a little bit on the apprenticeship program. Several years ago, we kind of determined we were about to lose a lot of operators in the state of Arkansas. We're over 50% are eligible. So what we try to do is kind of be proactive in this and try to bring people up into the industry and pair them with a mentor. It's a 2-year program. So they kind of paired with that mentor, learn their system, learning what they need to be doing on a daily basis in their town, their community. And what we did is incorporate a lot more training, not just the standard licensure training to get licensed and throw them out there and put them to work, but to actually do some hands-on stuff, to actually learn how to repair some of the appurtenances they have in their system so they can actually save their system money. And I can tell you, I've gotten texts after we done 2 or 3 classes. City of Bologna has about 2 or 3 apprentices. I got a text from them guys about 2 weeks after we had one of the classes. They had already repaired, I think, 14 hydrants in 3 days. Average cost to replace those are about $5,000 to $6,000. Replacement cost is about $200 to $400. So the money that they saved was unbelievable. And these guys were excited about it. That's what we want to do, is just get them excited about the industry, not try to throw them out there and baptize them by fire, so to say, like a lot of us did get in their first couple of years in the industry. But try to teach them a lot about financial and managerial operations, being able to look and budget for their water and wastewater utility, being able to look at their rates and do a rate study themselves. May not count for an Act 605 rate study, but just to see where they're at, to see where their system's headed, so they can kind of head off any problems they see. With retail provider board training, we do probably about 6 of these a year. As you can see, most of mine have been in Lone Oak. We do one in Hot Springs at our annual conference, but it's just because of the sheer size that we have. You can see that class up there was pushing about 80 or 90. Most of these have been 50 or more. So it's easier just to do it in Lone Oak. And plus we cater that in from Nick's through a vendor. So everybody loves the barbecue from Nick's.
How long do those trainings last?
1 day, 8 hours. And it is a full 8 hours, I will tell you that.
That's required by law.
That is required by law under Act 605. And I can tell you that's been one of the greatest things. Every board member that I've had come up to me, manager, mayor, said, I wish we'd have had this years ago. What they're able to take back and learn and incorporate in their own utilities is just unprecedented. Some of the specialized classes that we do, we kind of have particular classes for operators. These are guys that already have their license, and they can actually learn a little bit more about how to optimize their job. As far as the wastewater laboratory, we have chemical treatment classes, actual fire hydrant repair classes. These we scatter all across the state as well, but these are more for operators that already have their license. So this is the reason I didn't want to go through everything, because the on-site technical assistance, like I said, we try to do everything from the ditch to the desk. When it comes to leak detection, valve location, actually finding lines for people, we've got a ground penetrating radar that we help them repair or help them find lines. Sewer smoke testing, reporting, rate studies. Right now, that's been a big thing. We've got a lot of rate studies on our desk. We're trying to get out the door. Funding application assistance. Some of the funding applications you're going to see next month, we've kind of aided in, especially on regionalization and consolidation. We've tried to kind of help systems that are voluntary. We believe if you're voluntarily ready to do that and realize that this is going to make sense for you, make sense for your community, we're on board and we're going to help you every way we can. Source water and wellhead protection program assistance. We usually put these reports together for systems, for source water protection. Wastewater, we do a lot of sewer smoke testing. A lot of MPDS helps them report, help them to learn what they should be doing. We'll help them to learn what they're looking at. Energy assessments is a new one, a lot of people don't know a lot about. We have an energy technician that actually goes to utilities and looks to see what the return on investment would be if, say, we replace this pump or this motor, or even LED lights. We take it as far as we can and actually help them if they want to implement some of this and it's not within their wheelhouse to fund it in-house, to look for some kind of application or some kind of funding source that could do that for them. We attend a lot of board and council meetings to help explain. We've had a lot of issues here lately with just understanding some of their roles and dealing with customers' complaints. We've ended up having to attend a lot of board meetings. The conversion to Public Water Authority, we've tried to help push that along. We've attended a lot of board meetings on that to kind of help people to do that. And this is just some pictures. So this is some of our people in the field doing leak detection, actually doing assessments at wastewater facilities, energy assessment, rebuilding altitude valves. This is some of the equipment we use. The reason that a leak detection program is so big is some of this equipment is very costly. Most smaller utilities can't afford. This one up here is $20,000 piece of equipment that not everybody has on hand. So they can come out there and actually do the location, what we call a correlation. So we can put these devices straight on the line or on valves and actually listen to that valve without ever digging it up. So we can pinpoint exactly where that leak is. Some of the other things that we use is ultrasonic meters. We can actually dig that line up, strap that meter around that pipe and tell exactly how much flow we got through it. We usually it's at night. That's the reason you see the lights on. Is usually because 12 to 2 o'clock in the morning. That's when most people hopefully should be in bed. And the water loss you're looking at, or the water you have going through those pipes, should actually be lost. That's how we get an accurate reading. The hands-on, that's what we try to do, because not everybody learns in a classroom. And I get that. I'm the same way. I want to see it. I want to know. So we're in the ditch with them, trying to help actually repair these lines, teaching them what they should be doing and how they should be doing it. Same way with hydrants, things like that. We do a little bit of everything. Wastewater side, we have a lot of pump calls, and that's one thing we started doing or have been doing for a while. We actually have several of these smaller submersible pumps in-house, because with COVID come a long lead time on pumps, and not every system has extras sitting on the shelf. So what they can do is, in emergency, when Chris calls, says, hey, this lift station is completely different system, we have a few that we can actually loan them for up to 6 months. And with the lead times that we've had, we tell everybody, if you've borrowed it 6 months, you bought it in a submersible wastewater lift station. Most of the time I'm selling more pumps at cost than I am loaning. We keep them pretty much going out the door every single day. Rebuilding lift stations, try not to get into too much contracting, but a lot of systems that don't have the funds, or they've bought the pumps and don't have the expertise, we come in and help them completely rebuild lift stations, put that stuff back in operation. We don't have an abundance of electricians across the state, and sometimes the cost of a small system is kind of high, so I have technicians that can actually go out and troubleshoot some. We don't claim to be electricians, but we can troubleshoot lift stations and small control panels. And there again, we have control panels already built for lift stations. If they go down, we can send one out there and they can either buy it or borrow it, whatever way they want to do, whatever makes it easiest for them. And we do it at very low cost on their part. That up there is ground penetrating radar. That's been a new addition, and it has been fantastic so far. I was a little skeptical on those, but I can tell you after seeing those in operation, those have been fantastic in South Arkansas. They can pinpoint a line real quick. Just same thing. This is water lines we've had to replace in smaller communities. And that top one is kind of a emergency situation where we've had one of the generators out to pump or fire up a lift station. We do a lot of emergency stuff. Like Chris said, it's a lot of weekends. And I just kind of pinpointed some of the ones that were a little unique. This was a year or two ago. This is at Sugarloaf Wastewater. Somebody actually burnt the wastewater treatment plant down, and that was all of their controls. So we had to employ several generators and direct wire a lot of this pumps and motors up to actually make this thing run. One problem we found out is we do not have a lot of polygraph technicians in the state of Arkansas, so it took a week or two to get these operators cleared. So we actually had to operate this plant for about a week or two before we could actually get them cleared that they were not the culprits and get them back in there and doing their job. Another one, a lot of people have heard about West Helena and what's happened. Some of the things that we kind of do a little above and beyond. Of course, when we got there, and everybody's seen that report, there was about 200 leaks. So with 200 leaks, we didn't have a lot of time to try to repair this. They had completely lost their plant. So we had a couple of crews there. I had crews out looking for leaks. We actually took some of their equipment, and that's our guys on their machines. We started digging and fixing alongside the contractors. One thing they couldn't do to move real fast was to get equipment or that was needed. So like that big air compressor there, they couldn't purchase that in a day or two. So actually we ended up purchasing the air compressor, going and getting it and installing it and just building the system for the air compressor later. It's been like that several times on the filters. When we redone the filter, that's one thing they couldn't afford to do it right then and there. So we just done it, and then they build it, or we build them later to get them back up. Another thing is these guys in the field have built relationships. And I can tell you, got a call probably not even a month ago. West Helena was about to go back down again, or Helena was going down because they didn't have a motor. It burned up in a leak. And these guys got on the phone, found a vendor that had at 10 o'clock at night, met them down there about 11:30 and had them back up and going about 3 o'clock the next morning. So they didn't go without water for very long, and it was right in the middle of the night. It's just due to these guys having the relationships with the vendors and the systems. Another one, this was another fire. This was actually caused by lightning. This was shot at South Sheridan here recently, as you can see in a few of the pictures, and it was a total loss. And this is just not attributing to us, but this is a whole community. This is something we was very proud of. And this operator called me. We started in that night. He asked me, he said, how long are we going to be down? So I can tell you it's probably at least 2 weeks. He said, Chris, we got to do it faster. So we'll do what we can. I said, here's what we need. We need electricians to start wiring up some of the things that we can operation, because everything was controlled out of this building. The well, the treatment facility, everything. So we ended up finding some motors. We got in there, we cleaned it out with a machine right off the bat. Had a crew in there working on that and finding motors, and had a crew working on actual interconnection with Sheridan Water. So a couple of things that we was able to do. We were able to connect Sheridan Water. They weren't able to furnish all the water they could. We have portable SCADA units that we can deploy at water systems. And I can tell you what was the most amazing thing. You see that portable shed built, you see the SCADA unit, you see them 2 pumps up and running. They were off of boil water and pumped up full of water in less than a week. That's not just us. That's a community. I mean, I'm talking about from people building that lean-to, from the electricians running new wire to every facility, and us being able to put that SCADA in, and from another utility. One of them is actually from a different utility that's close. That was a whole community thing. I mean, that was just amazing to be up in 3 or 4 days. Another thing we do is a lot of emergency response across different states. So this year we had the opportunity to host 27 different states to come to Arkansas at our facility in Lone Oak and actually teach these other states how to handle emergencies and what we can do to deploy equipment that we have to help these systems. Like the city of Norman that y'all are voting on right now, we have a wastewater pump down there right now that's bypassing the line that's blown out. Had that piece of equipment there for probably 2-3 months. So appreciate y'all voting to do that. We get our piece of equipment back at home in service. But we had about 120 people across the United States. This is from Hawaii to New York, California. All of these people come in to kind of learn what they needed to do and how they could handle different situations as far as hooking up generators, using ground penetrating radar, the ultrasonic meters, drones, anything and everything we could throw at them, we did. And hopefully they're taking back the knowledge that they took across the nation and to understand where this comes from. This comes from y'all and our federal partners. A lot of these generators, you may not can see it. There's actually I think it's on the back of most of them. Arkansas Natural Resources Commission's name is printed on probably at least 4 or 5 of those generators that y'all have helped provide over the years. So we just wanted y'all to be aware of that that's out there. That's what's given to most of these systems. And just be able to thank y'all for that. Some of the other support activities, we try to help legislative support for utilities in the state of Arkansas. We have an insurance program that's tailor-made for water and wastewater that has a mechanical breakdown feature in it. Because most of these pumps they don't last their full lifespan because you're not putting them in the greatest conditions. So that insurance kind of provides for that. A few other things. We got several affinity programs, Servline and WDB, that just helps people, helps utilities and helps people in the state of Arkansas. Servline is just an insurance that a utility signs up for. That's $2 or $3 a month for every person. And if they have a water leak, it automatically pays for that water that was lost. So with the rising cost of water bills, it's becoming more and more popular because if you get normally a $500 or normally a $50 water bill, and all of a sudden you got a $2,000 water bill, not everybody has that stored back in their pocket to pay for. And that's what that insurance program is for. One of the ones that we've kind of just newly come into here in the last year is the Rural Water Financing Agency. And it has 2 different options, 2 different programs underneath it. It's basically an interim for funding through the USDA or SRF. If they get a loan, then they have to have interim funding for that 2 years till the project's completed. That's one thing that we offer to do. It's streamlined and efficient. Basically, all they have to have is a letter from either y'all or USDA saying that they have the funding or will have the funding and fill out a short application process. The thing that's unique about the interim program, I won't say it's unique to everybody. I don't know, because I don't know everybody's funding structure. But when they get that interim funding and all that money's put into an account for them to start making draws, the interest that's accrued off that money actually goes back to pay that loan. We don't keep that. The bank don't keep that. That goes back to those individuals' actual loan payments and interest payments. Another thing we have to kind of help is the Flex Term program. It's I'm getting ahead of myself there probably. That's just a small streamlined process. It makes it very easy and quick. But Flex Term is just actual, if they want to do a 15 or a 30-year note, obviously we're trying to push them toward USDA and ANRC first. But when that money's no longer there or they need some extra money to do something and need it quicker, they have access to funds in less than 120 days, usually about 60 days, depending on when we go out for bonds 4 times a year. And usually it's like right now, we just closed 9/30. We had one system that had their money within 45 days, I think. That's the interest as of 9/22/25. We try to keep it as low as possible if we can. And things that we don't have is reserves built in. They don't have to have a reserve. Up to $30 million per bond issuance for each individual borrower. So these borrowers that are trying to get into $90, $120 million, when they cut SRF down to the bone on that, it's easier. Some of that money can come somewhere else. And that's pretty much it. Try to keep it under 10 minutes. Any questions?
Any questions for Chris?
I just want to say, Chris, your organization is the real deal.
Thank you.
I've had cities in South Arkansas that I visit that you do.
Yes,
In
ma'am.
fact, you have a team of 5 in Lake Village this morning.
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, yeah.
We do.
The other thing I'll say is it's good to get feedback from Chris and his team about things that they see or issues they see so that we can then modify opportunities for funding to try to help address some of those. One of the things that you saw pictures of as they have these transfer switches and bypass pump connections. And so when they roll up on site in an emergency at midnight, they get there, there's no way to connect. Like, it'd be nice if there was a transfer switch so they could connect the generator to it, basically depower everything and plug in. A lot of times they don't have that, which means electrician has to be called out, and that's time. If people don't have water. So that's one of the things that we've incentivized, is trying to get folks to install those things so that when they do show up, it makes it that much easier and a lot safer, because you don't want to, you don't want to have an accident over trying to wire in something electrical. And so this just makes it much cleaner. So it's always good to get that feedback from Chris and his team. And we adjust accordingly to try to fill some of those gaps.
Yeah, appreciate y'all, for sure. Thank y'all.
Thank you so much.
Chris, good job.
All right, next is our partner reports, Ms. Moreland.
Well, I have to say publicly, that was impressive. Chris, y'all are doing a fantastic job. And, you sometimes forget that a lot of these agencies are out there and they're doing really good work. I'm gonna keep mine fairly short because it's all right on schedule. We did have our South Central NACD meeting in Hot Springs last week. And Chris came down and spoke to them. We have from 4 states, Texas, Arkansas, Louisiana, and Oklahoma. And it was a good meeting. I was expecting 60. We had 157. So it was very well attended. And we did they got to see lots of things. We took them out on a tour. They went to a Christmas tree farm to see how that's done. We saw demonstrations of hog traps. Then from there, we went to Lake DeGray, and they had lunch there, but they also had presentations. And then from there, we went over to Garvin Woodland Gardens, and they got to see some of that. And then the next day was meetings all day long with speakers like Harrison Pittman, Dr. Mike Daniels, and things like that. So it was a really good meeting, and fortunately, we don't have to do it for another 4 years. So I'm all pleased about that as well. Now, back to some of the things we got upcoming is we're looking forward to our annual meeting in March of 2026. We have scheduled your commission meeting in the morning, the way it always is. In the afternoon, we're going to have director training. This year, we've taken on a lot of new district directors. They need to be trained, and that just seemed like the perfect opportunity. We've got a grant to help offset some of that expense, and so they'll be brought in, and we'll be looking to Chris and his staff to provide some of the training of the things that come through there. We'll have someone talk to them about what the law is, what they're mandated to do, what the regulations and guidelines are. I had a new director call me a week ago that said, I'm confused. I don't know exactly what all I'm supposed to be doing. And so the more he and I talked, the more I thought, well, he's at least admitting it. How many others feel the same way? So we're going to really bury down on that of trying to get these directors old and new, because some of these folks that have been around for a while, they kind of need a refresher course. We get into this thing of being way too comfortable in our positions. As you know, this morning, the federal government shut down. I sent out information to the districts on Monday. These are the guidelines that you need to follow. If it is a closed district, it does not affect them. We have 13 closed districts, which means NRCS does not have a presence there. The others, anything that has to do with NRCS, whether it be the computer, the offices, the phone lines, anything like that, as of 11 o'clock today, they're not going to be able to utilize that. So a lot of our districts, we've encouraged them to go ahead when they do get new employees to get an internet email address that is not connected, because the one we have right now, the arnacdnet.net, is actually a server that's provided by NRCS at no cost to districts. We've encouraged them to go ahead and get a Gmail account for a variety of reasons. Part of it is to do with their SAMs. We find there's a lot of confusion if you switch employees and you've set up in some personal email address. It's a huge deal. So for those folks, a lot of them will continue to work from home, but the guidelines told them, here's the things you need to go in the office. You need to get your checkbook. You need to get these things, take them home with you, and or whatever your directors tell you to do. So we'll get through this. We don't know how long. We did have one that was 30 days on time. We managed to get through that. It hopefully won't be a horrible inconvenience for our producers right now. But we do know that in October is when we start our well, I take that back. We no longer do the poultry processing, but we do water well registration. And so, they'll just have to wait on those kind of things. The other thing is our new theme for this year is going to, we follow NACD. It's going to be soul, where it all begins. And, so that will go out with the Dave Ferguson Scholarship. It's been busy. We've done training. We've done several trainings this year on everything from audits. They're in the process of starting audits now. We went through that with districts to show them, here's what they're going to expect you to do. And so we're continuing to work with them on that so that way, a lot of the things were things that it was very easy to do. They just didn't know to do it. So we've been doing that training. We've done training on QuickBooks. We've done training on locally led work groups. We're going to continue to do those. And my thing has always been, if I have a director call and say, I don't know about this, then maybe if they're admitting to me, means I've still got about 20% that feel the same way. So we will continue to set up training. Always appreciate Chris's staff when they come to help us, such as Jennifer Walsh, on the cost share, on tax credits, on all those things. I think it's better to come from his staff than from me, so that I don't get something messed up. And having said that, I thank y'all for allowing me to be here. And again, Chris, I'm never following you again. You did a great job.
Thank you so much, Deb. All right, with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, Mr. Funkhauser.
Morning, I just have a couple of 3 updates this morning. First, to kind of follow what Debbie said on the furlough and how it's impacting the Corps of Engineers. A lot of us are either exempt, like myself, we're working on old funds or partner funds, such as the water plan project. Several are accepted, and that means that they have to come to work and they just don't get paid until the government reopens. And then we have the furlough status, which there's not very many at this time within our staff that are furloughed. As far as we know, we intend to keep all the parks and boat ramps open for those of you that recreate Corps properties. We haven't received clear guidance yet from headquarters. We hope to sometime today. But as of right now, we're intending to keep those open for as long as we can. A few months ago, so that's all I have to say on furlough that I'm aware of. That's all the information I have. A couple months ago, we got a new commander, Colonel Patrick Cocken. He's fairly young. The older I get, the younger they get. He's got a young family. They bought a house in Maumelle, so he has a vested interest in this state, which is always attractive in my mind. He asks a lot of questions about water resources in Arkansas. He's very interested in the water plan. We're briefing him sometime in, I think, November. He's still trying to get his feet wet. As you can imagine, he's drinking from the fire hose. We get new commanders every 3 years. He just got out of war college, so he doesn't have a whole lot of experience. He has no experience in civil works. So he's got a pretty steep learning curve, but he's a really smart guy. And you can tell how interested they are by the types and the number of questions that they ask. And so I am pretty positive about his tenure. 2 projects that we have with you guys. The water plan obviously is the big one. Chris talked about a little bit this morning. We are working several components of that. Right now, we're doing an infrastructure assessment. Michael Baker International is leading that effort through a contract that we have with them. They've sent out surveys multiple times to utilities across the state, asking for an overall assessment of their current and projected future infrastructure needs. Some of the responses have been a little slow. We've sent out additional, Chris and his staff have sent out additional surveys. We'll be wrapping those up before long, which will allow Michael Baker to actually start compiling all that information. The draft of that report from them is due in February, March timeframe. We've had to slide it a little bit just because of trying to get more responses for the surveys, with the final from them later in the spring, April, May timeframe. Michael Baker is also doing water quality part where they're actually looking at all the water quality data that we have from surface water and groundwater in the state, trying to make some type of overall assessment. There, actually Olson Engineers is subbed out to do that. So they're used to be FTN, so they've got a local connection here, which is good. Draft is due January, February
timeframe, and the final is later in the spring. So that's the two components that we've subbed out to contractors. The rest is being done internally with the district staff. We've got water supply, water demand are the two big ones. For the most part, we've got supply wrapped up. Demand is a little more, requires a little more effort. They are working on that, working on cleaning up some of the databases that exist with some of the water use information. Working with Tate and some of his folks, trying to get that information cleaned up and usable. The plan is for us to basically have draft results, not necessarily a draft report, but draft results in the February timeframe across all the components. And then have a series of stakeholder meetings, present these results, these analyses to the public. And various stakeholders and try to get some feedback and refine any of our analyses that need to be refined. We hope to, again, to start those across the state sometime in mid to late February. We can keep everything on track. That's all on the water plan. Am I missing anything, Chris?
No, I think you did a great job on that.
Okay, thank you. We did just complete one of our projects with you guys. It was a levy assessment where we partnered with Chris and also Department of Commerce. What was the other department?
The State Land Commission.
The State Land Commission, I'm sorry. Where we assessed 42 counties in Arkansas, primarily in the eastern side of the state, looking for new levies that might not necessarily be accounted for either with the state or with the Corps. Russ found a few dozen new levies that might not meet the definition of a levy for the Corps, but what we're able to do is actually put that information into the Corps' levy database so that it can be accessed by the state and others. The next step to that, so that project is done, but we are moving several of those 5 total to the next level where we're actually going to have boots on the ground, make assessments of those levies. How much will it cost to upgrade them to Corps of Engineers standards so that they can be put into the federal program, federal levy program. We would like to, well, they would already like to start on that right now, but just the way the funding process is unfortunately playing out, that might be a little bit delayed, but we're doing that 100% federal. The Corps is going to do that analysis on those 5 levies. And that is all I have for the Corps, Little Rock District. Questions?
Any questions?
Jason, on the levies that that were part of the national levy database, do we know what the cost is on those levies to bring those up to compliance? Is there a good total estimate that we can add these new levies, add that dollar amount to the?
So there was, I believe, was there 59 of those levies that are actually already in the levy database? Do you recall? And I think most of them are already up to the Corps standards.
Most of the ones that we identified were already in the database, but we identified more than 20 new ones that read NID that will be incorporated with NID. And then we have about the same again that do not meet the NID criteria that will go in the state database. With respect to how much it costs, the only data that we have right now is whatever is available for those already in the RIP or SWIFT program.
So most of those in there are already in the Corps program. So
I'm just thinking about the water plan and estimating
that for the infrastructure.
Yes, if that's easily, if we can pull that out of information that we already have and what we're getting.
It's a good question. I'm not sure. But
I spoke with Mike Bichon, who's with the National Levy Assessment Program for the Corps at the national level. And they do have a sort of blue book for some of the repairs that we can use. It's regionally focused that we might be able to use to get a rough idea of the magnitude of the cost of repair.
Yeah, that's a good point. So Whit's been working very closely, more closely than I with those headquarter guys on this project. So glad you're here today.
Any other questions? Thank you, Mr. Parker. DEQs, Ms. Wassel.
Good morning.
Morning.
Stacy Wassel, Deputy Director in the Office of Water Quality at DEQ. So we are kind of in the middle of our fall conference and meeting season. In September, we attended and presented at Arkansas Rural Water Association's conference. It's a great conference. They do a lot of great things. Very happy to be able to partner with them on some of those conferences. Last week, we attended and participated in the Arkansas River Compact Commission meeting that was in Pace Springs. There is a lot of positive actions that are happening in Northwest Arkansas towards reduction of nutrients, and have to give a lot of credit to NRD for all of their efforts in that part of the state. It's really incredible what's going on up there. And next week, we will be attending and presenting at the Arkansas Environmental Federation Conference. So to the Northwest Arkansas, good things that are happening up there. Back in 2022, we had received objections from EPA on 5 of the permits, 2 of which we had issued, 3 which did not get issued because of those objections. And we recently received a letter for each of those facilities from EPA withdrawing those objections. So 2 of those 2 permits that we had already issued, those are now fully effective. And we are going to be working to issue permits now in Northwest, one of which that had received an objection has already been issued. So that is one of our primary focuses right now, is getting those permits issued in Northwest Arkansas to those wastewater treatment plants. And that is all I have on my report. If there's any questions.
Any questions?
Thank you.
Any other business? Questions, comments, concerns, complaints?
How is the irrigation projects coming along?
Making hurts.
I didn't mean to make you get up here.
It's okay. So which one would you like to start with? White River or Valley?
White River.
Okay, White River. So the electrical substation is complete. We had a bit of a small ceremony cutting for that. The pump station construction is still ongoing. The pumps have been taken out of the pump station and are at a contractor that I think is Ohio, Midwestern states, somewhere that direction. Getting a once over, since they have been there for quite some time, to make sure that there isn't anything major wrong with them, since they have been sitting there. From my understanding, nothing, knock on wood, that terribly detrimental has been found in those. Anticipate those to start coming or to make their way back to Arkansas, at least 2 smaller pumps, in the very near future. We are working on some inlet channel contracting with the Corps for the water irrigation project. There's ongoing canal construction. There are NRCS funds, county road crossings, bridges, Highway 70 and Highway 63 are currently under construction. So a lot of moving parts, a lot of construction going on there. The Biomeda project currently has a contract out with the Corps of Engineers for the next phase of canal construction. I think that solicitation will close in October, with the contract award expected by December. To begin that next phase of construction. And there's also, they also have highway bridges, county road crossings, and those pieces going in place too. So lots of active construction. Yes.
Just a little bit on the harmful.
So both of these projects are not focused on canals, so get right out into the field. Systems that are meant for a producer to draw from the canal to store on farm. So both districts have worked together to submit a proposal to NRCS to hopefully
some equip dollars to be used in the project areas to build on-farm storage that's needed. Focusing on the areas that will, receive water first and kind of work their way out in that, but that on-farm capacity is very important and vital to the operation of that system. There has been a lot of on-farm work that has been done over the years, but it does require a lot of that for that system to be utilized how it's intended to be utilized.
So Biomeda is up and running, at least partly.
No, neither project is pumping water just yet.
I thought that Biomeda had a ceremony and they started pumping.
They turned the pumps on to pump, but it was ceremonial, only they're not delivering water on farm yet. The next phase of construction, once it is completed, they will be able to, provide water. White River, the same way, once the pump station is completed, it's in final canal construction and highway bridges, county road crossings, once those are completed. White River is anticipated to be able to pump in 2026, Biomeda in 2027.
Thank you.
Exactly.
Yeah, if you think about those projects, you have the pumping side and then you have the distribution side. The distribution being canals, pipelines. The ability to pump is pump stations, power, access to the river, you know. So it's really, they gotta work on them both simultaneously. But we're excited. They're gonna be pumping water here extremely soon, which is good.
Eddie, if I could explain it to you this way. White River, Biomeda, that's like, a distribution like what we. So they're providing water instead of power to the farm.
Yeah.
And we've got you a pole, now you've got to run your power to your house.
Okay.
So there is gonna be some on-farm work to be done to make it compatible.
That's good.
And our tax credit program will play a role in that. So if, you know, if a producer wants to invest in a reservoir or some other thing that helps them connect, that qualifies under our tax credit program, then they can get a state tax credit for that work that they have to pay to put on their farm to be able to access the water.
Well, that's all good news, isn't it?
It's all progress, which is good. We've got a ground finish. We can figure out different ways to attack it. That's what we're trying to do.
I'll tell you another thing, we're funding to build a canal, which would be 25% of the canal. That is the most expensive portion of the canal. As it goes south from Carlisle, the canal gets smaller and it flows downhill. So it's gonna get cheaper to build and it's gonna get more time to build as it continues to grow. Okay. Anything else? Well, I guess we need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
And a second.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Well, let's go home.